Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bablet Jonathan. In our top stories on this edition of the news, the Republic of Cameroon is fast moving towards the 1,000 COVID-19 case line. The country has confirmed now more than 930 cases of the coronavirus in the country. The number of deaths and persons successfully treated from the coronavirus is also on the rise. And also in this newscast, we'll talk about lawyers who are describing the President of the Republic of Cameroon's decision to liberate some prisoners as insufficient, and indicating that measure concerns only a meager percentage of persons detained in different incarceration centers across the country. The President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, tells the National Assembly to declare vacancy at the presidency of the Republic. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news. Cameroon's Ministry of Public Health has said that the country has already declared or recorded close to 950 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Exactly 932 confirmed cases have been recorded in the country, including 24 health workers. 21 persons have died and 200 have been successfully treated. 374 of the COVID-19 patients are hospitalized. 30 are placed under ventilator assistance breathing, and about 40,000 COVID-19 related calls have already been received from the public. Visa information that was made public today by the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, at the National Assembly. And Cameroon is executing a 58 billion francs CFA anti-COVID-19 plan, and her test capacity stands at 18,900 persons or tests. Government has placed a command for 300,000 tests and 100 ventilators that are expected to be supplied by April 18, 2020. And the Cameroon government continues stepping up its fight against COVID-19, but some of the measures taken by Cameroon authorities are qualified as insufficient by political and civil society leaders. And one of such measures is the presidential decree signed yesterday reducing or cancelling prison terms for some prisoners detained in different incarceration centers across the Republic of Cameroon. We talked to Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel Agbo, and Innocent has compiled this report.
Bia's remission and commutation of prison sentences has been welcomed by the civil society, political and different classes of people, including legal minds, though not satisfactorily. So because not even 20% of the inmates incarcerated all over the national territory will be freed.
We have been clamoring for the President of the Republic to release all prisoners so as to avoid a collective death sentence. We were very happy that he heeded to our call. Partially, while this is a laudable move, it is largely insufficient, because I don't think that that move is going to affect up to 1/3 of the prison population.
Senior Barrister at Law Ashu Emmanuel Agbo, unlike other Cameroonians, believes the head of state at this crucial moment can grant total amnesty to all prisoners so as to avoid a possible catastrophe in any of the detention centers if an inmate is infected.
We are not asking the president for some measure of leniency. We are asking him to act as the father of the nation and to take cognizance of the fact that the inmates they are facing danger of dying collectively. We are asking him to empty the prisons. Take measures to empty the prisons. You can bring the people back after Corona is over.
The decree, which denies freedom of persons awaiting trial, is cosmetic.
They are not concerned. So, in fact, the measure looks like a cosmetic one because the bulk of the prison will still be there. The prisoners will still be there because they are awaiting trial. And those are the people who would have even benefited from this move because they are not considered dangerous per se. You see, they are not like the people who were convicted to death and they are committing their sentence to 25 years.
President Paul Biya, who has adopted 20 measures to fight against the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, is expected to revise his remission and commutation decree of prison sentences.
Now we hear Kondenge has some cases. It's just a matter of time for us to start having 5,000 dead in a day because they don't have all the facilities that are outside, like running water, possibility of isolation and all that. They don't have. They are dead like in a concentration camp. It's bad.
Many also view the measure as cosmetic, as detainees of the Anglophone crisis, Julius Isekua Yuktabe and co, and Mamadou Mota, first vice president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, would not be freed, even as the coronavirus spies at them.
Cameroon has launched a campaign to disinfect all public places across the National Triangle. Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Jengute launched that campaign today at the Yaoundé railway station, and the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, received in audience today at the Unity Palace the French ambassador to Cameroon, Christophe Guillou, and both personalities discussed the fight against COVID-19 in Cameroon, France, and the world. They also talked about economic issues, notably the 2,230 billion francs CFA debt relief, including 60 billion francs CFA rescheduled by France to help the country fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and the Anglophone crisis, and efforts to restore peace and normalcy in the northwest and southwest regions of the country were also on the discussion table. And due to what has been qualified as the long or prolonged absence of President Paul Biya in the public, the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, Syrian political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, has urged the National Assembly to initiate procedures to declare power vacancy at the presidency of the Republic of Cameroon. Professor Maurice Kamto is initiating this with other Cameroonians who think that the President of the Republic should have done like other heads of states by coming out to speak to the nation, especially during this time of crisis, not only the Anglophone crisis, but also the COVID-19 pandemic that is partly affecting the country. Details with Innocent Aze.
In his letter addressed to the Honorable Allengagedcitizens, Speaker of Cameroon's National Assembly, Maurice Kamto, National President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party, told the MP to ask the Constitutional Council to establish a power vacuum at the helm of Cameroon, that is the presidency. Maurice Kamto, President Paul Biya's immediate challenger at the October 7, 2018 presidential election in Cameroon, said Cameroon is in an unusual political situation characterized by a prolonged and unexplained absence of the president, Paul Biya. Maurice Kamto said he has fulfilled his responsibility as a citizen by drawing the attention of competent institutions to the vacuum which, according to him, exists at the helm of Cameroon, and history stands as testimony. Note that the constitution in Cameroon gives powers to the president of the National Assembly to initiate the process to establish a power vacuum at the presidency at a given time, if there exists any. Maurice Kamto, done with his petition and awaiting the reaction of the House Speaker, who is constitutionally Cameroon's third most important personality, rather received a heated response flashing in from an unexpected angle. The Central Committee of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement political party, through its National Communications Secretary, Professor Jacques Famindongo, weighed in. In a tooth-for-a-tooth response, Jacques Famendongo said the claims of Maurice Kamto were unfounded. Jacques Famendongo qualified the move of the CRM political party leader as fictitious politics, categorically stating that there exists no vacuum at the helm of Cameroon. The CPTM political party heavyweight states in black and white that the petition of Professor Maurice Kamto is null and void as far as Cameroon's National Assembly is concerned. Justifying his declaration, the minister said only members of parliament are constitutionally eligible to petition the House Speaker over a vacuum at the presidency according to Article 81, Sub 1 of the Internal Regulations of the National Assembly. With regards to the power vacuum or not, the CPTM political party national communications secretary said the debate on the resignation, death or incapability at the helm of the state is a non-event in Cameroon as of the moment. Jacques Famendongo concludes that the move of the CRM political party national chairman lacks bearings and political backings. Political heavyweights and professors Maurice Kamto and Jacques Famendongo are on their unfenced public political confrontation in Cameroon.
And government authorities have been saying that there is no vacancy at the presidency of the Republic of Cameroon because the president of the Republic signed a decree yesterday, indication according to them that the president is not dead. As rumors had circulated, the president is not absent, for a dead or absent man cannot sign decrees. And today he received the French ambassador to Cameroon at the Unity Palace and discuss issues linked to the fight against COVID-19 and efforts to restore peace and normalcy in Anglophone Cameroon, and also economic issues. And of course, we're talking about the fight against COVID-19 now in Muyuka in the southwest region of the country, where the mayor went into the municipality sensitizing the public on the importance of respecting all the government and World Health Organization anti-COVID-19 measures. And during that sensitization tour, he begged elites of the Muyuka subdivision to unite efforts in putting an end to separatist activities within the municipality in a bid to restore peace there. Derek Jato reports.
Traces left behind by war in the Anglophone regions. We are in a corner this 15th day of April 2020. This town is still quiet and empty. There is no sign of life here as vegetation takes full residence.
I want to tell my Muyuka municipality that we are missing a lot. The government will have a lot of projects that is coming. Some are already in tenders, but we have to develop. We have to develop Muyuka. It's not the end of Muyuka. All the elites of Muyuka diaspora will base here. That was we should see and arrange how we can take our time back.
In Muyuka town, Mayor Langino Lazar, mayor of the Muyuka Council, is on the field, and for his municipality to fully stand again on its feet, everyone must play a role.
Now we cannot force it because that's why I've asked my boys, my younger brothers, my children who are still behind. Let them come and meet me, then give you ideas to develop our Muyuka.
Activities of separatist fighters are still very effective here in Muyuka subdivision, a source told this reporter, and the atmosphere was reflective. The security measures here are very strict and every step or activity is taken with a lot of caution. And the coronavirus pandemic is coming to add pains on the already devastated Muyuka population. Reason why Mayor Langino Lazar, mayor of the Muyuka Council, on a sensitization campaign against coronavirus in his municipality, launched a strong call for the sons and daughters of Muyuka subdivision to come under one thinking cap and prevent coronavirus from entering their subdivision.
You know, I cannot work alone, so after meeting with my executive, we decided that we should think about our population. That's why we organize hand washing in the Muyuka municipality. this morning. There should not be attacked by the coronavirus.
The mayor handed face masks and station sanitizing point at this gateway into the town. Others will be stationed by the forces of law and order elsewhere in the subdivision.
Very Jato reporting there from the southwest region of Cameroon, and officials of the Popular Action Party continue pursuing efforts to meet a group of persons who they say have been forgotten or better still neglected and ignored by government's anti-COVID-19 strategy. I'm talking about internally displaced persons, persons who have been kicked out of their homes by the Anglophone crisis, and the officials of the Popular Action Party were in Limbe meeting IDPs and bringing to them some assistance and information to help them in the fight against COVID-19. Details with Davidson Maimo.
As the fight against coronavirus pandemic intensified in Cameroon, with government, civil society, the church, political parties and people of goodwill making donations of face masks, hand sanitizers, water containers and soap to wash their hands, there is a need for these donations to have target population and community, for the materials donated might simply not meet its objective. One of such group that has identified its target and is meeting its objective is the People Action Party, PAP of Njang Dennis. The party, since the outbreak of the pandemic in Cameroon, has been donating face masks, hand sanitizers, to an extent transport fare to internally displaced persons in some towns and cities hosting these persons. In Limbe, respecting not more than 50% gathering, the party handed free face masks of durable quality and hand sanitizers to some internally displaced persons in 4 different localities within the city.
Are the most vulnerable, and we'll be able to build them psychologically, and again coupled with the fact that some of them barely have what to eat. Now going ahead and buying sanitizers and nose masks will be so much costly, and it is in that light that our campaign is mostly on the internally displaced persons.
To some of the internally displaced persons and those hosting internally displaced persons in Limbe, the gesture is a laudable one, taking into consideration their present financial status.
You look at countries, look at the way they are presenting their citizens. They'll tell us, please go and wear masks. They don't even know where you get money. Some of us are struggling. Don't even have, even if you have 1,000 francs, will you look how you can prepare some small jollof rice for your family to eat when you go and be buying masks or buying sanitizer, which is not so easy for us.
So I want really thank God to go in the party. They don't come give you the hand sanitizer the way we take them. We do face mask we could defend ourselves. So I'm really glad for standing here.
Leaving Limbe, the party ordered its focal point persons in the southwest to identify more internally displaced persons in need so as to continue with the gesture. The party next stop is Bafusam, where same exercise shall be carried out.
In Lome, in the Mongo Division, littoral region of Cameroon, some inhabitants took to the streets protesting against the devastating impact of the COVID-19 fight on their activities. They are unable to meet up with their daily activities because of the measures imposed by administrative authorities, and they are asking for other measures that will mitigate the impact of the fight against COVID-19 on their activities. Immaculate Foge reports.
The seat of a motorbike for 2 is less than a meter.
Do you remember I was telling you that you were the eldest person to have survived this nasty virus that's going round?
The outbreak of the coronavirus is gradually killing economic activities in several parts of Cameroon. One of those localities badly hit by the situation is Lome in the Mongo Division of the littoral region of Cameroon. The economy of the area has been paralyzed following the recent anti-COVID-19 measures taken by the government of Cameroon. I arrived here since morning, but I'm unable to sell all of the fish. I am trying to gather the leftover and take back home. I am unable to sell 2 kilograms of fish daily. The governor of the littoral region of Cameroon, Samuel Duduneva Dubois, in a communique, had ordered an end to the consumption of drinks in bars. A week later, The senior divisional officer for Wuri in a communique announced that people were allowed to drink in bars but must go home before 6 p.m. However, his counterpart of the Mungo division could not take a similar decision across the division as consumers were not allowed to drink in bars. The communique signed by the senior divisional officer for Wuri states that some changes have been made with regards to the communique that was released by the governor. So, we had to go see the governor himself for confirmation. We were informed by his cabinet that no changes had been made by the governor. Faced with these challenges, the population of Loum are sending across a distress call to the government of Cameroon.
Coming up, meet the oldest British COVID-19 survivor. She is 106 years old.
Remember I was telling you that you were the oldest person to have survived this nasty virus that's going round? That you've survived all of this?
Yes, I love that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Are you looking forward to seeing your grandchildren?
Yes.
Looking forward to a nice spot of lunch and then go home?
Yes.
You are.
The oldest British COVID-19 survivor, a 106-year-old mother. Now on to something else. The new president of the Douala Military Court, Colonel Mem Michel, and the new state prosecutor, Suite Benin, have been commissioned into their functions. They took over from their predecessors today during a ceremony presided at by Dr. Colonel Didier Sipa, director of the Department of Military Justice at the Ministry of Justice of the Republic of Cameroon. Colonel Mem Michel took over from the Douala Military Court President Abu Aka, while Suite Benin is replacing Lieutenant Colonel Jackson Chinda. In the following extract, Colonel Didier Sipa's statement, he talks about, or he elaborates on the duties and challenges awaiting the new Douala Military Court State Prosecutor. The extract of the director of the Department of Military Justice at the Ministry of Justice, and he is talking about the duties and the challenges of the new Douala Military Court State Prosecutor, Colonel Didier Sipa.
The prosecutor are predefined by law. We know in the classical organization of courts, his missions are defined. He organizes prosecutions. He also controls all investigations for cases that are within his jurisdiction. As judicial police officer, when they carry out investigation within the files that are coming from the military court, he has to control them. He's the administrator of the court too. So he manages the personnel that is placed at his disposal for the court. We had to remind him that Douala is not necessarily Bamenda. The kind of cases that he's going to have here are different from what he had in Bamenda. Here you have the crime wave here is so high. You have case files where you might have about 10-15 litigants, highway robbers and so on. So it's a complex and complicated area where he has to work. And the volume of work too. The volume of work is important here.
So we instructed him to follow the law and do his work. We also advised him to take into consideration the specificities of Douala, because Douala is not Bamenda from where he's coming. So we advise him to be very cautious and make sure that he does his work, manages the people put under him judiciously.
We know his capacities, his intellectual capacities, and we look at the work he did in Bamenda. I think it is on those bases that the hierarchy thought that he could have it here. Well done, and I think he's going to do it.
For magistrates of the bench, We did not give instructions. We merely advised him that since he has the facts, the law, and his conscience, we added a fourth factor, which is his environment. He should always bear in mind that justice is destined for the population. And because we all know where people can have faith in justice, development will necessarily follow.
Colonel Didier Sipa, Director of the Department of Military Justice at the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Cameroon. Talking Point is up next. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in Talking Point. We are receiving two guests in this edition of the news, and we are beginning with Fabrice Lena, who is the National Communications Secretary of the Popular Action Party, joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. Fabrice Lena, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Sir Babila. It's always my pleasure to be a guest in this platform.
All right, our second guest is a medical expert, Dr. Mbakop Breeze, specialist in emergency medicine and gynecology, working here. The Mayotte is an island not far from Madagascar and Ile de la Réunion. It is a French overseas territory. He is a survivor of COVID-19. Good evening, doctor. Good evening, Dr. Mbakop Breeze.
Thank you. Good evening.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. I'll begin with you. You are a survivor of the COVID-19 pandemic, and you're a medical doctor. You've been hearing about the death of medical doctors in the Republic of Cameroon and elsewhere. When you hear about medical experts who are not only infected but are dying of the COVID-19, how do you feel? What do you think about the fight?
About what? Excuse me, I didn't hear.
I said you're a medical expert and you've been hearing about medical workers not only infected of the COVID-19. There are about 24 of them who are in the 932 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Cameroon, but there are at least two who have died of the COVID-19 in Cameroon. And when you hear about medics like you dying of COVID-19, how do you feel? What do you think about the fight?
Well, it's terrible because you can, you are just imagining yourself dying of the infection. It's possible, and no one is safe. Everybody can be touched by the infection. So it's always a dramatic news to listen that you have doctors that are dying of the infection.
All right. Tell us how you got infected of with the COVID-19, and how did it happen? How did you contract the virus?
Well, I'm not sure how I got infected with the virus, but I don't even really remember coming in contact with any infected patient. I think maybe I have been shaking hands with someone who was infected but who didn't show the symptoms at that time, and this is surely the way how I got infected.
All right. How did you notice that how did you confirm that you were a victim of COVID-19?
Well, first of all, we had the context. We knew we were in an epidemic situation. So when it all started with body aches. The first day, I felt body aches, and but it was not that painful, so I didn't really pay attention to it, and I let go. But the next day, I had a sore throat, so I went to the emergency service of the hospital where I work at, and I asked her to be tested for COVID-19, but I've been returned away because my symptoms were not pronounced enough. They were not specific enough to suspect this infection. So I've been asked to return there only if I had cough or a high fever. And the next day I really started coughing very seriously, and I went back to the emergency, and I got tested and it was positive.
All right. Now the treatment. How did the treatment go? What were you administered as treatment? How were you handled by the medical experts there?
My treatment, my own treatment?
Yes.
Yes, but you have two cases. You have the patients, the infected patients who does not show any sign of gravity, who does not have severe symptoms, and those patients like me quarantine at home. They are quarantined at home with a symptomatic treatment. So I was just feeling body aches and some I was coughing, but nothing else during the first days. So I didn't take any treatment for during the first days. During the first days, until the day 7, I didn't take anything. But I've been suffering of diarrhea on one weekend, and I have to take antidiarrhea treatment, but it's the only medicine I have taken during all the disease.
And today you have been tested negative for the COVID-19. We'll come back to you in a short while. Fabrice Lena, the figures are still rising, and Cameroon is fast moving. That's at least 1,000 cases of COVID-19. We are already at 932 confirmed cases of COVID-19, and the figures of dead cases are also increasing, but also the number of persons successfully treated, about 200 already. What do you think about the fight against COVID-19 in Cameroon today?
Well, I would like to encourage the efforts of all international organizations and medical experts that are putting a lot of effort to fight this world pandemic. It is quite unfortunate that this pandemic came at a moment where our government is fragile. The state of Cameroon was not organized enough already for this extra crisis that is coming to meet other existing crises in the country. The rapid rising number of COVID-19 in Cameroon is an indication that the state is porous and not well organized to fight this pandemic. And you see, there are a lot of polemics at the level of government officials managing this pandemic in Cameroon, because the only person I will appreciate is the Ministry of Public Health, because he's trying his best as an individual, but the government organization is really very, very poor, because when government give measures without accompanying measures, what do you expect the people to do? It will be very difficult for people to keep staying in the house, to keep saying let people stay in the house, let people wear nose masks, let people buy hand sanitizers. We are just from Limbe. You can observe that many people don't even have the amount of money that will permit them to acquire one nose mask for a day, not to talk of several nose masks that will be required of them till this pandemic will be over. That is just to tell you how difficult it is in the field. And
the head of state has decided within the context of the fight against COVID-19 to reduce or cancel the prison terms of some detainees across the country in order to avoid a situation that could erupt from the overcrowded nature of prisons in Cameroon. What do you think about that presidential decision?
Insufficient. It is not enough. I think that if the president is a good citizen that loves this country and loves his people, he should have given a total pardon to all prisoners. This is the moment that he will have used to make peace, to set the prisoners free, to help the IDPs that are suffering, to reconcile the Cameroonian people at this moment. Because I believe that this is a moment where everybody's mind is focused on a calamity that is not caused by any group of persons. And it is very easy for a president to unite the people under the canopy of this common fight.
In other countries like Ethiopia, for example, the government has decided to free people who have minor crimes and women with babies. Normally, you think that the prisoners, all of them should be freed, even those who have very serious charges on their shoulders?
I said Cameroon is a fragile state, and there are moments where we need to make peace, especially coming from the government. The government of Cameroon is, first of all, guilty of a lot of mistakes, a lot of crimes against Cameroonian people. Who is following them up for those crimes? And the citizens, in the moment where they are supposed to also take into consideration their own lives. We are talking about human lives. We are not talking about objects. We are talking about human lives. So he should have considered also that no, him as the head of state has not been available for the past 3 weeks in the fight of this pandemic. We have not seen him. Alpha Conde of Guinea was in the street talking to his citizens.
But he has been speaking on Twitter and giving high instructions to the Prime Minister and the other members of government. And
this is the same government.
Ambassador
this is the same government, Mr. Babila, that is condemning ruling people through the social media. At the same time, we are having a president that is managing affairs of the country through the social media. It's appalling. Which other African country is talking about the pandemic in social media without addressing the people? Even the state TV station is there for him to address the Cameroonian people there. Yes. The other presidents are going into the field, walking along the streets. Like I was watching the news
yesterday. The Chadian president Idriss Déby was addressing the nation
to the field.
On the
Alpha Conde was in the street talking to Guineans. Even though the people are still not happy with his way of leadership. But as is a president that is never available to talk to his people.
I'll come back to you in a short while and we'll talk about the IDPs who are the most vulnerable according to you and who are neglected or ignored in government's strategy against the COVID-19. Now we're going back to Dr. Mbakop Breeze. And Doctor, what's the situation over there where you are in Mayotte, which is an overseas French territory not far from the island, not far from Madagascar? What is the situation there?
Less than 100 cases, and we still have three deaths. Do you understand me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
You hear me? Okay, thank you. Here is an island. The only way to get in here is to take a plane to get in on the island. So the airport is closed it has been closed for nearly a month right now. So we do not have new cases, importation of new cases. So this is a plus point. But on the island, you have two categories of population. You have a very defavorized population, who is most of them are migrants with no papers, who are hiding from police, and who will not follow very well the measures of lockdown. You understand?
So, what about Cameroonians and other Africans who are there? Are they also part of those who are hiding from authorities and not respecting the measures?
No, some of them, but not all. Not all.
All right. Now back home, you have been following up. You have been following up what has been happening in Cameroon. All the efforts that the government and the partners of Cameroon have been putting in to prevent the spread of COVID-19. What is your take on that?
What is my take on? I didn't understand the question. I'm very sorry, but I didn't understand well the question.
What is your take on the management of COVID-19 in Cameroon?
Okay. I really don't know much about how it is handled in Cameroon. I've been told that there's not a national standard strategy of diagnosis and treatment of the virus, of the infection. I don't know if it is true, but here in France, we have there is a strategy. I cannot say if it is if it works or not, but there is a standard strategy which is imposed to all doctors, the way they have to diagnose the infection and the way they have to treat it. It is very difficult to compare with Cameroon because I'm not very much informed about how it happens in Cameroon.
All right. Now you are a survivor of COVID-19. You have been successfully treated. There's a question. The treatment until now remains symptomatic, meaning that only the symptoms are treated. What about the virus itself? Does it remain in the body?
Okay, you have two possibilities. You have two types of patients. You have young patients with a very strong immunity, and you have on the other side the old patients and the patients with additional pathologic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, heart failure, renal failure, and many other diseases. So the first group, young people with a strong immunity, their body will get rid of the virus on its own. I don't know if you understand. They don't need a specific treatment. It may take 5 days or 11 days or more, but the body gets rid of the virus. But in the second group, the immune system is very, very weak. So this group is more likely to develop complications that can lead to death.
All right, Dr. Mbaka Brice, you are a specialist in emergency medicine and gynecology, working with Centre Hospitalier de Mayotte and an island close to Madagascar and a French overseas territory. Thank you for joining us today. Fabrice Lena, we are wrapping up with you in some few seconds. You have been working with IDPs. You have been focusing on IDPs as far as the fight against COVID-19 is concerned, and you say that they are the most vulnerable and they are neglected or ignored by government's anti-COVID-19 strategy.
Exactly. The IDPs have been so much ignored by government measures because the government did not take into consideration the vulnerable situation of the IDPs, especially in Yaoundé, in Douala, in Bafoussam, Limbe, and the neighboring Francophone cities that these people seek refuge in as a result of the Anglophone crisis. We were expecting that the government will give specific measures in regard to these specific persons that are living in very difficult conditions, more than 8, 6, 10 in some houses. They are even lacking what to eat, but at the same time government is giving measures. Let everybody wear the mask, let everybody have sanitizers, let them follow strict measures, let them stay at home, especially those that are in the private sectors that their activities had been temporarily shut down. It's really a pity for these people that they are in a country where the authorities take measures that they do not consider the other people who are not in the same level like them. I think our government is taking measures on the elitist level only when they are comfortable. They don't think about the Cameroonians that are not at the same level like them. So the IDPs, we call on every Cameroonian to focus on them. They are the most vulnerable persons. We are launching a campaign to support them throughout the cities that they are found.
All right,
and beyond.
Fabrice Lena, National Communications Secretary of the Popular Action Party. Thanks for coming. And we are rounding up this edition of the news with this. Let me indicate to you that Dr. Bakob, our guest, and other persons are running a group on the social media, a medical group where you can get advice on medical issues and issues concerning COVID-19. You can also get advice on issues concerning the treatment of COVID-19 on that group on social media, that group run by Dr. Mbakop and other persons. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us in this edition of the news. Goodbye.